Welcome to the Signal Halifax, located in the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq. I'm Connor McDowell.
And I'm Katie McKenna. We're here at the University of King's College in Halifax. Coming up, a program to help newcomers navigate the city on two wheels.
The 15th annual Nocturne Festival offers artists a place to connect. And how accessible are the streets and sidewalks in Halifax?
Bouncing this idea off somebody in a wheelchair before they did it could have saved them a lot of money in revising it, which I'm hoping they're going to have to do.
But first, facing the challenge of running a small business during the pandemic, The Signal's Chen Yang tells us how the owner of a vinyl record shop in downtown Halifax kept his store and his dreams alive.
This vinyl record shop survived the pandemic and is ready to thrive. Eddie quit college and opened the shop to support his passion for DJing.
I studied DJ when I was in high school, and I was a pop block dancer. It's something when I was dancing and people tell me like, you got to dance to this kind of music. I just starting to feel like, yo, this is groovy, and I like it. Back in the days, I don't really know what is it, but like, it's pretty cool. So after I moved to Halifax, back in the days, I just don't have much friends. It was so boring, so I just go to record shop every day. Start my record collections, then I became a vinyl DJ. For like a vinyl record business, you have to build up like a community. Then you sharing knowledge, you sharing those music with those people in the community. Then they come to buy the records to support you.
I come here 2 to 3 times in a month, and I can always find like amazing Japanese pricing records here. For example, this one, my favorite, Maria Taikuji.
But during the COVID-19 pandemic, the store's revenue dropped by 50%, and Eddie's business partner quit and left Canada.
Another thing is during the COVID, some people are kind of like broke. They have to sell their record collection for surviving. It's just so hard because you just can't have much people to communicate face to face. I'm not sure where I'm gonna be in the future, but I'm gonna keep DJing. Financially, I don't know how long will this shop last for, but like I'm trying to make it as long as possible.
Chen Yang for The Signal, Halifax.
The City of Halifax unveiled major changes to Spring Garden Road. New bus and bike lanes and a sidewalk upgrade. But a local disability advocate says not everyone benefits. Sabine Antigua reports.
These new sidewalks in Halifax already pose problems for disabled people. Snowplows chipped these brick tiles last winter.
Several of these square bricks have already become loose, and it's such a tripping hazard for everybody.
Paul Vino is the accessibility consultant for Halifax Regional Municipality, or HRM.
Bouncing this idea off somebody in a wheelchair before they did it could have saved them a lot of money in revising it, which I'm hoping they're going to have to do.
Paul identifies more accessibility problems in Halifax on roads and public areas.
So these are called TWSIs, tactile walking surface indicators. What they're made to denote for blind people is the space between the walking space and a road. These two are basically nonsensical to a blind person, or to a guide dog that's trained to only one TWSI is what they look for. So this is obviously not run by the CNIB or any blind citizens at all.
Misaligned pavers catch water and form ice. Cobblestones are laid unevenly. Both pose a tripping hazard for pedestrians using canes.
It's, nothing about us without us. City has to change the way they do business with all of these groups. And then we'll have a proper city that's welcoming and doable for everybody.
Last week, Paul met with city officials to discuss the issues with the sidewalk redesign. He hopes to see them take significant action toward addressing the disabled community's concerns. Sabine Antigua, The Signal, Halifax.
Here at the University of King's College, a new student outreach campaign takes aim at sexualized violence on campus. It coincides with an ongoing review initiated by the university.
The review followed sexual assault charges brought against a King's professor for actions 3 decades ago. As Andrew Lamb reports, a key voice for sexual safety wants to create a culture of respect and consent.
Jordan Roberts educates students on sexual health and safety. An ongoing independent review tackled sexualized violence on campus. Roberts says the recommendations gave valuable insight for student engagement.
Hearing that people like things like a small, intimate, close-knit learning environment, and also the risks and challenges that poses.
The review also highlighted how some students didn't feel included or safe at King's. They identified their race and wealth disparity as reasons why.
How we can be supporting all members of our campus community is making sure that the supports that we have are diverse, both in what they are there to serve, what they are there to do, and also in terms of the people that we hire to do them.
For her part, Roberts connects with students at popular hangout spots. She provides educational materials like books and pronoun pins.
These are all made by Pinprick. They're a local queer trans-owned and operated pin company. So they did all these pronoun pins, and I really love.
Roberts says students give her valuable feedback during their chats.
I get a lot of information from those conversations about what kind of trainings are wanted, what kind of resources are wanted, what I should be getting more of, giving more of. So it's a really valuable way to get feedback and insight into what my job should be.
Students can also participate in hands-on educational programs.
So we're going to have a zine making session and workshop in November. Any students that want to come to the wardroom and sit around with some magazines and paper and glue and a photocopier nearby.
Roberts encourages students who need support for sexualized violence to reach out to her, resident staff, or someone they trust. Andrew Lamb, The Signal, Halifax.
International students are struggling to find housing in Halifax. The Signal's Shazara Khan spoke to one student about how hard it was to find a place to live.
Anika Bushra is from Bangladesh. Now, she is studying for a master's in public relations at Mount St. Vincent University. Bushra had a hard time finding a home.
So after I got my visa approval, I started looking for places online, and I must have texted over 50 to 60 people, and I got just like 3 to 4 virtual viewing, but none of it worked out.
Bushra looked through multiple ads. It was even harder because she was looking from Bangladesh. Many people didn't respond.
When I did get the responses, they were pretty irregular with their replies, and they were not willing to give out the place to international students. And a lot of them wanted to schedule a viewing in person.
Just days before flying to Canada, she got a lead on a room.
And thankfully, I was able to secure that place for myself. But then again, it was a bit over my budget. But I mean, I was pretty thankful that I at least got a place to live.
Even mundane tasks are a blessing now that she has a place. And home-cooked meals never tasted better.
So this entire experience was definitely an eye-opener. It made me realize my privileges of having a permanent home back in Bangladesh, because I never had to worry about having a roof over my head.
This is Bushra's new home for the next 2 years. She plans to graduate in 2024. Shazara Khan, The Signal, Halifax.
Still to come on the show, Nova Scotia birders flock to a popular spot. Cycling in Halifax is a challenge. The hills are steep, traffic is bad. As Angela Capobianco reports, one woman is up to the task and wants to make cycling accessible to everyone.
Halifax is known for its busy streets, but Jessie Crawley isn't too worried about that when it comes to cycling. She works as part of the transportation team at the Ecology Action Centre. She also volunteers with the Bike Buddy program. It pairs people up with a mentor to teach safe cycling practices in the city.
So we typically did hour-long rides. So where we like to do the most was on trails, just to get higher comfortability before we hopped onto the roads and stuff like that.
The program has run for a few years now, but this was the first year with government funding. This allowed the program to grow into a bit of a community.
A lot of people end up making lifelong friends and stuff from the program.
Biking is a big part of Crawley's life. She bikes almost daily. In the summer months, she can be found running the Ecology Action Centre's mobile bike repair station. She tries to reach out to overlooked communities in the area.
I personally really enjoy the going into communities weekly. It gives you more of an ability to bring tools that if you were in the community the previous week, you can see what repairs you could do and which ones you need to work on longer term.
Crawley says reaching these hard-to-reach communities is important. Government research revealed that new Canadians had worse health after moving to Canada. It revealed a reliance on cars and social isolation, which impacted physical and mental health. For Crawley, biking is a good solution.
I also find it drastically affects positively my mental and physical health. I find I've lived a way healthier lifestyle personally when I'm doing more of my cycling and stuff like that.
Do a drop test, which is when you pick up your bike and drop it 2 inches from the ground.
Bike Buddy was a success this year with 50 to 60 participants. Crawley hopes even more will join the program next year and learn the importance of cycling, not just for their health, but for the community as well. This is Angela Capobianco, The Signal, Halifax.
On October 8th, Nova Scotia birders celebrated an annual event called Big Day, a 24-hour period where birders around the world try to see and ID as many birds as they can. Reporter Marley Jokinen joined a group that visited one of the province's best birding locations, one that may not be here next year.
Nikki Gillette calls to the birds at Heartland Point. Today isn't just any regular day of birding.
The October Big Day is a worldwide event where birders try and see and ID as many birds as possible. And whether they come out to a place like this or do it in their backyard, they're just trying to see birds, ID birds, and get out and have a day outside.
Gillette explains that birders upload their findings to eBird, an online database of bird observations.
And eBird uses the findings for research for such things as migration routes and population and things like that, so it's actually really valuable to them as well.
Amateur birding does more than progress science. It's one of the fastest growing hobbies with mental health benefits for birders.
It's this thing where you're going outside, you're connecting with nature, you're watching wildlife, and there's a meditative aspect to it. Your brain is so focused on one thing, and it's just observing nature. So yeah, I think it's great.
Heartland Point is the #1 birding location in Nova Scotia and number 15 in all of Canada.
Each year, hundreds of thousands of migratory birds use Heartland Point to rest, feed, and breed.
This could all end next year. Birding at Heartland Point is under threat. In spring of 2023, the Department of National Defense plans to build a weapons testing facility on the land.
The build alone will will disrupt the birds. You can't build something that size and have heavy machinery and traffic coming in and out of this kind of place and not disrupt the wildlife.
Gillette is just one of a larger group trying to save Heartland Point. Community members have started a grassroots movement and a petition demanding that a thorough environmental assessment of the project be done. The group has collected over 15,000 signatures so far. Gillette says the best thing that people can do to help is to speak up.
Public outcry and the voice of the community is the most impactful thing.
Galette encourages people to head out to Heartland Point themselves and experience all it has to offer while they still can. For The Signal, I'm Marley Jokinen.
The Nocturne Art Festival took over downtown Halifax in mid-October. The festival celebrated its 15th year and hosted more than 50 artists. The Signal's Rye Pembroke tells us how one pair of artists gave voice to the year's theme, legacies.
Soph Kreidstein and Tamar Jungreis are setting up a piece for this year's Nocturne Festival. They built their piece around shared experiences as queer and trans people of the Jewish diaspora.
I've been thinking a lot about sort of like accessing these deeper, like embodied, I guess, like Jewish parts of myself, because there's so much that I don't know and I'll never know about my family.
The piece involves several projections and archival audio from different aspects of Jewish experience. Nocturne's theme this year is legacies, and voice became the avenue for the duo to explore the theme.
Thinking about, you know, how the legacies that we carry are held in our voices. Every person really that we've ever known is in some way sort of like carried within the timbres of our voices.
Very discreet.
Jungreis says the use of voice is significant for them as a trans person. They've experienced major changes in their voice through their transition.
I haven't even been 1 year on testosterone, and voice was a very core part of my identity before I started T, and so it's been another means of like exploring this first year of transition for me.
Using the soundscape to call back to childhood memories has been a way for the artist to connect to both their Jewish and trans experiences.
Trans people have to learn how to take up space, and it takes a lot to validate, and for me to do that, especially like in a new city at a time where I'm really figuring out myself in very real ways, that does feel almost cosmic.
The duo performed for 3 hours straight. Many audience members shared feelings of familiarity with Kreidstein and Jungreis' work.
It was just really nice to hear a lot of familiar sounds and songs that I don't know where they're from, but I just know that I know them.
Through their piece, the duo has contributed to a legacy of their own. For The Signal, I'm Rye Pembroke.
The pandemic kept one Canadian-born Hong Kong artist from traveling back to family in BC. It also raised questions about what family meant to her. The Nocturne Festival provided a space to explore these ideas. Audrey Chan reports.
Joni Jung was quarantined alone for months when COVID first hit Montreal. Cultural isolation inspired her to host a public dumpling wrapping workshop.
So when I did this project the first time, I've only done one iteration ever. I had to fold all of the dumplings by myself in my apartment alone because quarantine. But it was fucking lonely.
The rise of anti-Asian violence during the pandemic made Jung feel unsafe practicing Chinese customs.
Actually, that's when food became a part of my practice.
Jung wanted to create a space for conversations about cultural identity. Her Nocturne Workshop invited racialized people in Halifax to make her father's dumpling recipe with her.
I've always been a person who talking to myself isn't very fruitful or like helpful for me. I kind of spiral most of the time.
She calls her project Down to Dumpling.
What?
Earlier this year, Jung's grandmother passed away. Wearing her jewelry along with the ritual of making food helps Jung feel connected to her grandmother.
And so that's really been testing me in my belief of the intangible planes and like how we can still communicate with our family even if they don't physically exist in the same place or space or time as us.
Jung also views her art as a way to reach out to future generations. Jung handed out paper prompts to participants at the end, inviting them to archive their experiences with the event. Jung hopes her project allows people who are down for dumplings to continue sharing their cultures with one another.
Thinking about how you can give back, not necessarily right now, but like perhaps in the future to someone else or a group of people is encouraging for me.
This is Audrey Chan from The Signal, Jabuktuk, also known as Halifax.
Walaleo. Thanks for watching. I'm Connor McDowell.
And I'm Kate McKenna. For more news stories, follow The Signal on YouTube and Twitter.
Or go to signalhfx.ca.
Thank you.